because I've got turkey belly. Feet are not witnessable by this edge. Now I know how he feels. See the resemblance? Yeah, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying. Anyway. Okay, first off, today is Thanksgiving up here in Canada. We have it a little bit different than the Americans. So anyway, for everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Everything is so stressingly difficult now because I've got turkey coma setting in. So if I just nod off halfway through the video there, don't worry. It's perfectly normal. But anyway, it's a beautiful day. I mean, look, fall day. Look at that beauty. Like it's, you know, the sun shining. Beautiful. I'm extremely blessed to have, you know, an awesome family. And lots of turkey. And anyway, so anyway, yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where, you know, it kind of puts things in perspective, and considering around the world all the crazy things that we're dealing with right now. And, which, okay, like anything, don't worry, don't go too far, doom and gloom's coming in the videos there. And, you know, I look around and I realize, you know, like, this is not what most people get to enjoy around the planet. That's something that, you know, we here in North America take for granted, in many European countries. We take this for granted that it's not this peaceful everywhere and stuff like that. A lot of it has to do with cultural, some of it has to do with economics, but almost all of it has to do with politics and geopolitical stuff. And the crazy stuff we're seeing going on around the world is just mind-boggling insanity, right? But even with that, you know, we have to look at a couple of things. Now, this video isn't going to be bashing on Americans as much as it is bashing on U.S. foreign policy, like I always do. I don't bash on the people, because really the people don't have that much control over their governments anywhere around the world. Governments around the world, not the average government employee, the average government grunt, but the average, you know, the people in power do not serve the interest of people anywhere. Pick a country, it's the same all over. And because of that, it leads us to some of the most craziest of crazies out there. Now, one of the things that we're also looking at right now is a very tense situation over there in Syria. And what's it all about? A lot of people really don't realize what it's all about. And the more, it is getting kind of exposed for what it is, but it's like anything. Until Gerald Celente, I think, says it well, nobody cares until it hits them in the pocket, but it will. Because it is really about empire. It has nothing to do with the women and children or democracy. My dog on the front step. And nice trying to hide, eh? Yep. You're too fat to jump. Don't jump. I'm too fat to walk, let alone jump. But anyway, yeah, so it's kind of one of those things that, you know, these policies have basically led to the most destabilization around the world. And that destabilization, well, it goes everywhere. It literally does. And, you know, none of us are immune to that insanity, but we do see that, you know, the desperation is setting in on these, you know, global elitists and stuff like that, where, you know, they're really trying to get a big war started. Because what is coming around the corner, you know, again, for the average person, they won't see it coming because they don't follow this stuff, they don't care. And even if they do care, they don't all follow the same, you know, the same news sources, right? So if they're getting their news from the mainstream media, you know what the narrative is with the mainstream media. It's not really telling anybody the truth on anything. It's a narrative. It's not objective. And it's only through objectivity that you can actually make informed decisions. Whether you agree with people or disagree with people, you know, like I always say, never take my word for it. Always look into it for yourself. Good luck trying to prove me wrong on some of this stuff, because I listen to the leaders of the world, and they pretty much tell you everything they're going to do. They're psychos. They have to tell you. They can't keep it in. It's kind of like telling a 4-year-old a secret and tell them, don't tell anybody. You know, like, yeah, you know, like Tommy, don't tell your sister what we got her for her birthday. Make sure you don't tell her just before she opens it. What's little Tommy going to do? Because I do stuff like, I still do stuff like that. I shouldn't, but I do. And and anyway, long story short, we're you know, people just have no idea what the secret is until they're faced with it face to face, and then they realize it's not a secret. It's completely open and apparent. Agenda 21 now, Agenda 2030. I guess Agenda 21 isn't moving fast enough. So Agenda 2030, if you thought Agenda 21 was bad, well, Agenda 2030 is like the revised, refined version of it, and it's all communism at the end of the day in its kind of raw form. The blueprint is, anyway, a communistic one. Right, Goof? Yeah. So anyway, with that going on, people have no idea also that, what empirism is. And empirism, and this is kind of going to get to the meat and the potatoes of what this video is. I know it sounds a bit of like a rambling video, but again, you eat 5 plates of turkey and see how much rambling you do, if you can even stay awake. Okay, good. I did eat a lot, though. It was so good. My dad says it best. It's too bad. You have to feel full. My cousin for that is like, I guess it's a safety mechanism, so you don't turn into a goldfish and eat till you explode. But when it's that good, you could do it. You could bust yourself, I'm sure. But the thing is what people don't understand about empirism is that's what we're witnessing right now. The world being, technically divided into 2 regions: the transatlantic region versus which is the Anglo-American Empire. The city of London, not the city of London, but the banking city of London. It's a section in there that in London that creates all the financial policies around the world, which is linked to the IMF, the Federal Reserve, and all this stuff, and even all the TV channels and everything. Pretty much all owned by the Rothschilds, and of course on the other side, on the oil tycoon side, it's pretty much owned by the Rockefellers, right? That these dynasties go back a long. You might as well call them dynasties for what they are. They go back, 150 years, something like that, right? So they've had a plan going on for a long time, and control the population is one of them. But on the other side of the empire is another empire, and that empire again would be the Eurasian Pacific Empire, which is basically like the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Singapore. And then, of course, you can throw in Argentina and Venezuela and God knows whoever else on there, about 105 other countries, including Iran. And, right now Iraq looks like it's switching sides. And apparently the Iraqi Air Force just took out al-Baghdadi. Yeah, the CIA plant of, John McCain must be just bawling his eyes out for his lost love there. Again, we see these pictures of so-called world leaders like John McCain taking pictures with the top known terrorists of these organizations, yet he calls them moderate rebels. It's insanity. It is complete insanity. So with these 2 empires fighting for supremacy, and I'm not saying the other side is going to be any less corrupt or any less New World Order. It's just a different New World Order. It's on the other side. Some people right now are the Putin wagon, cha-cha-cha. But trust me, his empire is just as corrupt as the New World Order empire that we, Illuminati or whatever they want to refer to it. I just say really corrupt people. I like to dumb it down and keep it simple. Things are not really as cloak and dagger as you think when you just look at what are the root goals of these people. Money, power, and control. That's it. Control all the resources. Golden rule. Ye who has the gold rules, right? Set the dollar. It doesn't really matter what currency. I'm sure the Rothschilds right now are probably looking at a plan B of, ditching the U.S. Anglo-American Empire and switching over to the other side. These people, they're scumbags, right? And what's also going to happen with that, quite simply put, is the massive fall of the United States economy, which you got analyst after analyst out there saying it's imminent, it's imminent. I disagree with them. Guys like Peter Schiff, even Harry Dent, these guys are excellent at what they do. But the thing is, and one thing that they always kind of factor out is that the system is already super manipulated as it is. So it can't collapse. That's the whole point. It can't collapse, but it can deteriorate. So to me, I say no collapse until war comes. And the thing is with that too, and I've been saying it, and I know I kind of repeat myself, but most guys like do these channels usually kind of repeat themselves because it is such a crucial part of what's going on. And that whole thing is that a death and debt-based economy that the United States has, and again, 53% of their GDP is spent on the military. What do you think? And they're not manufacturing anything, and jobs are just disappearing left, right, and center. Technically, if you added up the way, the honest way, the job numbers in the States, they basically have a 34% unemployment, or roughly about 94 to 96 million people out of work, out of 318 million. That's worse than Depression era levels. The only thing is it's propped up by food stamps and welfare and stuff like that. You didn't have that in the 1930s. But the thing is that stuff can't be propped up if there's no revenue coming in. The United States has just invoked martial law twice in the past month from the making of this video to be able to print enough money to keep the government running. That's where we're at. But that's the whole point. They can just keep doing this. So in other words, they're pulling a Zimbabwe or Weimar Republic, where just, wheelbarrow of money is not going to buy a loaf of bread. And this is coming at a time when many, many countries are ditching the U.S. dollar. It's still going to be around for a long time yet. But the trump card is that they can destroy the money as it comes back into the country to keep inflation low. But the problem is the velocity of money comes to a screeching halt. And when that happens, you're going to see uprisings like you wouldn't believe. Why? Because your money just will not be able to purchase anything. And they know this. So best way to get out of it, the best way not to pay your creditors back is go to war with them. And that's why they have to have a war. They must absolutely have a war with Russia or China or whoever. It doesn't really matter whoever. But they must absolutely have war. So this is where the Russian trump card comes in Syria. Now, are the Russians doing the right thing? Technically, yes, they are doing the right thing. But they're not doing it really for the good of the people of Syria. It's a benefit. It makes them look good. But at the end of the day, yes, they're striking the CIA acts. I mean, if they killed al-Baghdadi, they killed a CIA guy right there. That's who he was. He was in Buk prison. They had him. Number one, and the Iraqis let him go because, they were probably told to let him go. And, of course, John McCain taking his picture with him and stuff like that. Now, with him out of the way, that means all the nutbags that he was in control of, they're out there now. They got no guidance. So think about it. They'll turn on anything. The gremlins are being released as we speak. So this is going to be very chaotic. It already was out of... But you have to understand, it wasn't out of control. The whole Iraq, Iran, Al-Qaeda thing, the Free Syrian Army, all that stuff, that's not out of control. That is the order out of chaos of Henry Kissinger's policy. They're fighting each other, they're not fighting us. And not only that, the benefit was very clear. They weren't attacking Israel, which is usually a number one on the list for most jihadists. So who's keeping them from attacking? Well, it's the leaders. The leaders are these are the plants that kind of guide these guys around. And Russia's taking out those leaders, so that means these guys are just going to be all over the place. And that could very much destroy a lot of countries. Turkey, I think, is now going to be slated for destruction from within. Think about it this way. The Russians are going to be playing well with the Kurds. The Turks have no option but to play well with the Kurds, and they don't like that. But at some point, they arm the Kurds. They're arming the people they're going to fight in the future because they've already been fighting them for a while, right? The next problem is with Saudi Arabia. Well, Saudi Arabia, again, is Israel compliant. And somebody sent me a great link, and I read it in my Q&A, of the alleged connection between the Saudis, the Turks, and Israel. Because, again, nobody can figure out why Saudi Arabia, which is so radical, mind you, is an ally of Canada and the United States and the UK for some reason, but yet Assad's a dictator, but we turn a blind eye to Saudi Arabia. The country that beheads more people than ISIS, and last year they surpassed the record. But yet these guys never take out Israel. So, usually the obvious conclusion is they're in bed together. It's called what we would refer to as controlled opposition. So with the economy, $19 trillion, just under $19 trillion. The budget, I guess, it took 4 years or whatever, almost, or 5 years to pass the first budget under Obama. So the next budget is probably going to be about 12 years away before they pass it, because it's not, and they're trying to sell you on this idea of a 5% unemployment rate. There's no country right now that has 5% unemployment rate. Us, I think our employment numbers are pretty accurate for the most part, because we do factor in people no longer looking for work. We also factor in people no longer available for benefits. So you factor those two in, your number goes higher. More people unemployed than not. What we can't factor in is how many people are working under the table, which to me is not a bad thing as long as they're working, right? But in the States, they don't factor in those numbers. So you take those numbers out, your job numbers, you're just removing people from the equation. So when you look at 94 to 96 million people no longer in the workforce and just say, oh, well, they're just not looking for work, so we're not going to count them. Yeah, you're going to have a 5% unemployment rate. You count those people, you have a 34% unemployment rate, which is pretty high. And that's ripe for revolution right there. And that's one of the things is the diversion of the, collapse, or what I been calling all along is the bleed out. Again, no collapse till war comes, because they need something to blame the collapse on. The Europeans, I guess, are going to use the migrant crisis. But again, nobody's asking the honest question on the mainstream media anywhere of why is there a migrant crisis in the first place? It's because of U.S. foreign policy. Well, what is the U.S. foreign policy? To overthrow Assad. Arm ISIS, back ISIS, Even now, I don't know if it was a slip up from Obama, because again, sometimes world leaders do make slips, but sometimes they're telling you the truth. So Obama was out there and says, yes, our ISIS coalition forces on the ground. Maybe he meant to say Free FSA or something like that. So that's a possibility. We have, but then again, he could be, like I say, these people are crazy enough to tell you the truth, because what are you going to do about it? There's a reason why they want to take the guns from the people, in the States, because but it won't do any good, because guns are the least of the government's problems. It's what I call the hellhounds, or the call them spooks with a conscience, the people who know who the movers and shakers are, and the doers and the policymakers, and who the real puppeteers are and puppet masters. When they know that, those are the people they're going to get knocked off. We're never going to hear about it. I can only imagine it's kind of like James Bond, like spy vs. spy going on in Syria right now. If they took out al-Baghdadi, how many Mossad agents beside him did they take out? The Iraqis. And the Iraqi government is basically switching sides. They're like, we're going to go with the Russians, because the Russians, after losing 1.5 million people to U.S. foreign policy in Iraq over a lie of weapons of mass destruction. Remember George Bush's official thing he said when they admitted there were no weapons of mass destructions? Oops, my bad. But yet, he's immune from prosecution. But no, they're not. The Gaddafi effect. Because this is what the world elites, and I think they've come to this conclusion themselves, that it doesn't matter if they make everything they do illegal, legal. And remember, everything Joseph Stalin did was legal. Everything Hitler did was legal. But the thing is in this day and age, with the narcissism and the psychopathy, viral psychopathy we have around the world, it's because when you dumb down people, they become temperamental. And the thing is that also makes people very ripe for revolution as well. And again, I'm never calling for violence, but I would be very surprised if, depending on what trump cards we see coming out from Russia, I think right after, this is the beginning of Putin playing the wild man that I refer to in my World War III updates for sure. This is the beginning of it for sure. It's just too much a thumb in the eye in the United States and exposing the policy. And you can see like CNN and all these puppet, again, the bankers own those. So again, it's one system. You have to look at it one system. Out there trying to demonize the Russians for going after they're going after the moderate rebels who are trying to overthrow Assad. And people are saying, well, what's a moderate rebel? And the Russians are out there saying, well, all we find is the ISIS terrorists everywhere. There are no moderates there. And we're going to back our ally. Where's your argument? And, well, Assad's such a dictator. Okay, well, people are also going to start asking the question, and they are, maybe not on the mainstream, but people have probably already drawn the conclusion that, okay, well, why are we trying to over Assad when they attacked nobody? They were attacking nobody. But yet, he's such a dictator and stuff like that. And again, we turn a blind eye to North Korea. We turn a blind eye to Saudi Arabia. And worse, with Saudi Arabia, we back them. You know what I mean? Turkey, they're not known as a bastion of freedom with their government either. Egypt, look at it. When 80 million people in Egypt decide to overthrow their government in a protest, that's democracy. That truly is democracy. That's as about as an official referendum as you can get. So imagine when that comes here. That's the whole thing about government, is we can't trust any of them. So the only way to get our policies that the people of the nation want is the Swiss style, direct democracy. Have your referendum, majority rules. That's about the best we could hope for. Next to that, the Gaddafi effect will take. I can imagine right now we're going to start seeing a lot of accidents on bankers again. We're going to see another round of banker suicides. We're probably going to see a round of politician suicides. You're going to see a lot of people getting, again, spy BS, but we're never going to know what happened. Again, Prince Bandar, is he still alive? I have no idea. This guy's been missing for God knows how long now. Nobody knows where he is. Is he alive or is he dead? What happened to him? Where'd he go? I have no idea. Maybe he's already under his bunker underground, or maybe he's got lead cement shoes on somewhere. Who knows? It's where'd he go? But we're going to start seeing that. I think it'll be a while before you see it on the real big players. But if David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger were to just suddenly drop dead, nobody would notice, right? Oh, these are old men. They're they just took a heart attack. George Soros, oh, he just took a heart attack. But these are the players. So people's questions are, why haven't these guys been taken out? So they must all be in it together. I don't think it's that cut and dry. And here's why: is that, and I'm not calling for any of that, but again, Gaddafi showed us what's going to happen to the world elites. Why? When the people lose everything, they lose it. and that's what is coming. That's what's down the pipe right now. I don't think we'll see an all-out collapse, but don't guarantee. Don't rely on the government to supply your retirement in any country right now. The amount of people, again, we can see what happened in Greece, Spain, and Italy. That's coming, and when that comes to North America and Europe again, the politicians are going to be ripped apart in the streets. That's why they've been buying bunkers left, right, and center. It's not even conspiracy. I mean, if it's conspiracy that people prep and put food away in the case of, and then you see the world leaders doing it and saying, well, there's nothing to see here, but you guys are crazy. But we're doing, we're building, $1 million bunkers, $1 billion bunkers to live underground for the next 25 years. What is that telling you, So there's only a few ways that they're going to try to get out of this. Number one, the biggest false flag in history, which will make 9/11 look like a great day. So it's going to probably be some sort of a nuclear event or dirty bomb event. We know the Israelis have been testing dirty bombs over the summer, and stuff like that. That source came from RT because I know people have asked me about it. Maybe you take that one with a grain of salt, sure, like anything. But we also know about the recent Russian gangs trying to sell jihadis like ISIS, material for dirty bombs, stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if, and we still, the 5 to 6 nukes, B-61 nukes were very powerful. That just kind of walked off a Dreyfus Air Force Base in the States. We still don't know where those things are. They're unaccounted for. Nobody signed for them. They just left. We also know this is at a time when the British now are have basically decided, yes, we are going to start shooting down Russian airplanes. They okayed the RAF to do this. This is at a time when the German Luftwaffe is flying around with live missiles, which in itself is not probably something they haven't done before. But the idea, it's when you put it all together, it does make sense that, with all these nuclear weapons being moved around left, right, and center, it's not that a clock is right twice a day, or it's just we're paying attention to it now, now we see what's going on. No, it's the fact that these escalations are at not quite fever pitch yet, but they will be. And it comes on, to me, on the heels of two things. Number one, it will be a Russian trump card via Vladimir Putin playing the crazy man, like a North Korea-style crazy man, and detonating some sort of a nuke, probably up in the Arctic, maybe the full-size Tazar bomb, 150 megatons, or something bigger, maybe like a 200 megaton bomb. Something that's going to knock out power halfway across Europe. And, like just EMP, and just so people in the world notice. The Russians don't care about personal opinion or anything like that around the world. They don't give a shit about that. They're better not to anyway. But they're going to do it as the last kind of, hey, people, after this, we're going to actually release these things on your city. That type of thing. Now, people say, oh, they'd never do it. Well, did you ever think they'd get this far? I mean, we have Russian airplanes flying within 20 miles of U.S. airplanes doing airstrikes, and vice versa. And we have Russians. This is a direct... again, I don't know at this point how anybody could look at this and say, well, it's nothing to worry about. It's nothing to worry. We've never been in this spot in history. We've never been there. This makes the Cuban Missile Crisis look like a joke. And look at how intense that was. But people right now, they have no idea what's going on. Because they just have no idea what the main plan is. The goal is to get Russia or China to strike the United States first. So that's what all the provoking is about. Because the American government knows that the people will not go along with a draft if the Americans shoot down Russian airplanes, and the Russians, you swat a fly with a fly swatter, they grab a 2x4. Why? Because they don't 1-up it, they 10-up it. You got Carly Fournier and John McCain, Marco Rubio, Hillary Clinton. I don't think Obama has said it yet. And a few other, congressmen and women out there saying, yeah, we should put a no-fly zone in Syria and enforce that, and if Russian airplanes get too close, we'll shoot them down. Or like John McCain, maybe we should just do like we did in Afghanistan. They keep referring to that because that's the play that they're doing, and give them missiles to shoot down, Russian aircraft. Okay, now apparently right now there's a rumor going around, and I can't, I'm sure if they did, we'll find out about it later, that the Turks have shot down a Russian airplane, and there's also Free Syrian Army claiming they shot down 3 Russian airplanes in the past week. They could be Syrian, they could be, who knows whose airplane they could be, but I haven't seen any conclusive, here's the wreckage on the ground type of thing, or here's the missile going straight to the hit. Because the TOW missile, yeah, I've seen it hit the T-63 tank, and the battle footage is just phenomenal. Like, again, how can you watch TV anymore when there's so much excitement going on the planet? A little bit terrifying too, but and the Hind 24s flying around, zigzagging through the sky, strafing the crap out of all these jihadis on the ground. Very Red Dawn style. And then you got the Iranian Hezbollah, Lebanese Hezbollah, and Syrian army and Russian Spetsnaz sweep on the ground. Very Red Dawn style, massive amounts of artillery, Russian Air Force carpet bombing. It's pretty apocalyptic over there. But even with all that going on, that's actually the trump card that keeps the United States from being, and Israel, who's come out and said, okay, well, we're going to strike around September, October, something like that. The Russians, bang, out of nowhere, just decide to go into Syria to help out Assad. You know, about a week or two before he was ready to fall. So that is a monkey wrench in the New World Order plan. They weren't expecting this. I knew the Russians were going to get involved at some point, and just like I said, they're going to start at one end of the country and just sweep the country, leave it smoldering rubble and scorched earth until they cleanse like the amount of genocide that must be going on there. Is he a jihadi? Who knows? We'll kill them all and then we'll let God sort them out. That's what they're doing over there right now. You know, it is a cleansing, and so you know the U.S. doesn't know what to do. Their government doesn't know what to do. The British government doesn't know what to do. Like, okay, so we claim a no-fly zone, and so that will, you know, to kind of send a signal to the Russians that we'll shoot you guys down if you fly into our no-fly zone. And so they're talking about next morning. What does the Russians do? No, we establish a no-fly zone, and they chase away Israeli airplanes. They even painted one Turkish airplane. Apparently, the Turkeys are a bit of a wild card right now, but I think it will land on the side of the Russians at some point because there's going to be nothing there to save them from the Kurds after, other than probably the Russians. So it sounds bizarre now, but again, there's going to be a lot of backstabbing and flipping sides. And that's the way the Middle East works. It's just on a hyperscale right now. And at some point, yes, Turkey is going to ditch the U.S. dollar and all that stuff. And when that happens, you know, I think after that, then, you know, because Turkey has like the third largest military in NATO, right? So if you could sway that military to the Russian side, it's a big trump card for Russia, right? And not only do the Russians put out their no-fly zone, but they do something even more bizarre. And never mind the warships that are close by in the right off the base of Tartus, can easily fire cruise missiles 100 kilometers or two into Syria to take out these jihadi training camps and stuff like that. No. They fire from 1,500 kilometers away from the Caspian Sea. Very complicated 26 airstrikes, cruise missiles from 4 warships. And the footage I've seen out there of the supposed one of two cruise missiles that landed in Iran, which the Iranian government, they wouldn't tell you the truth if there was one or not, but the Iranian government says no, never happened. Cruise missiles went on, you know, that complicated course just like they said they did, and the Iraqis said the same thing. So these missiles go through Iraq, they go through Iran, they hit 26 targets from 1,500 kilometers away as a show of force to let the world know, the world leaders know that, yeah, you could try to put a no-fly zone, but this is the stuff we have 1,500 kilometers away that can successfully, very complicated, Navier cruise missiles, very hard to detect. Look at how successful they are. Oh, well, 2 might have missed. Even if it was true that the 2, and the reason why I don't think they missed, and maybe because there's a guy, he's got a picture of like a black hole, maybe about the size of my dog in the ground. If a cruise missile malfunctions, even if it doesn't detonate, it's going to leave a huge ripple effect in the ground. You're going to see parts of the missile, you know, kind of scattered all over the place. So I haven't seen that, just kind of a fake kind of hole in the ground. Yeah, you know what I mean? Probably was an artillery shell that went astray or something like that, who knows. But anyway, we'll take out, but even at that, 24 successes out of 26, I think the message has been sent. So that leaves the U.S. in another Trump situation where if they start shooting down Russian airplanes, the U.S. people are probably going to, and maybe possibly the military, more likely the military and the law enforcement, are probably going to have a coup against the U.S. government at some point. Why? Because you mean to tell us you're deliberately starting a nuclear war with Russia? And that's exactly what it's going to end up as. The people are insane that run everything. I'm not saying the Russians are the good guys, but there are no good guys. But the Russians are the only ones that are kind of keeping us out of the war by doing these crazy trump cards. Because it completely derails the globalist agenda. So let's say the Russians didn't get involved there. They didn't get involved. in Syria. Well, then what would we be seeing? We'd probably right now be watching Syrian Israeli airplanes striking the rest of the Syrian army, and probably also taking out targets in Iran, which right then would be leading to the next phase of this whole thing. Getting through Pakistan is no problem because the Americans are already there. So from there, it's just, you guessed it, China. The war with China, the war with Russia would ensue very, very, maybe not in this year, but maybe within 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we would have our war with China. Now, where are the Chinese in all this? Well, the Chinese government has already came out and said, hey, yes, we know that the war in Iran is really a war against us because the gas pipeline that was supposed to go through Turkey, which they could follow another route if Turkey doesn't want to go along with this, which they'd benefit if they did. Gas pipeline was supposed to go through Russia, Turkey, Syria, Iran, right on through to Pakistan, right on through China. They still probably have to work out a deal with Pakistan, but I'm pretty sure Pakistan would probably sway. And I think that's the way it's going to work out anyway. And the reason why is this will overthrow, most of the Gulf states in competition, and this will also go and overthrow the Israeli, wars for Israel at all costs, right? So that's what, and it will prosper everybody in the region. But more importantly, Iran's military, military weapons programs will get more. They'll be able to arm themselves to the point where the Israelis will not be able to do anything about it. And it's, again, Iran hasn't attacked anybody in 200 years. If you leave them be, maybe they might not. But if they attack people, sure, then, okay, yeah, go wipe them out. I don't care. But that's the thing. The Israelis don't have just cause right now. Preemptive strike is, you can use anything as an excuse to preemptive strike something, right? So, again, I bash on the Israelis for that because they're creating their own demise in the end. And this one is a huge trump card. So it leaves the globalists with let the economy keep bleeding out the way it is, but people are going to start to notice that they have no purchasing power. And, again, when people lose everything, they're going to take to the streets. So the only option is a false flag, blame it on somebody else, because the whole goal of collapsing the economy is to blame it on anybody but the bankers, right? Iceland was the only country in 2008 that did the right thing. The second country was my country, in Canada, which we regulated the banks a bit better, but we didn't go far enough. We didn't put people in jail. You even have Ben Bernanke out there now writing books talking about how they should have jailed more bankers. What? You know what I mean? And it's like not just the ones that are currently in play. It's the whole system, the whole plan from 40, 50 years back. Anybody that's along on that should be in jail. Because if we don't restore rule of law and we don't do it soon, the alternative is nuclear war. That's pretty much the alternative. And by trying to force Russia or China to shoot first, which they've kind of picked up on the plan, and they're not stupid, they're not going to shoot first. But the American people, if they see the U.S. or NATO shooting down Russian airplanes first in Syria while they're taking out terrorist targets, it's going to create revolt, probably from within the military. And in fact, the U.S. Navy pilots, they're pretty pissed right now because, them sitting on their aircraft carrier, fueled up, bombed up, ready to go, sit there until the jets run out of fuel, refuel up, and then by the time they get to the target, the target's gone. They're basically told not to hit ISIS targets from the word on the grapevine. Take that one with a grain of salt, but that's what I hear. So how long can these guys do this before their conscience gets to them, right? Think about it this way. Putin was out there talking about the jihadists. These are mercenaries coming in from other countries. He goes, I even know what they're getting paid. Look at Ashton Carter out there talking in front of the Congress. Yes, we had a $50 million jihadi training program, basically, and it wasn't successful. There was a few problems, and we didn't get to train as many people. So the lady asked him in the Congress, how many people did you train for $50 million? 5. These must be the ultimate super soldiers because if 5 guys are going to take out ISIS, that's pretty impressive. I mean, those guys got balls, right? So it's either that or that was the black budget project too. And of course you got CIA whistleblower. Again, these guys are going to come out of we're never going to see it. They're just going to start knocking people off, guaranteed. But the thing is a jihadi. Again, we talked about 3 types of jihadi. The guy who's had his wife and kids blasted apart by one of Obama's drone strikes. Have his kids burning, parts all over the yard, eyes burnt out of their head, skin peeled off from the blast, and the white phosphorus and everything like that, who picks up the AK to go get vengeance, and then we just call him a terrorist. And then we got the second one who's looking at the biblical aspect of the end times prophecy from the Muslim side. And, they're saying, well, it's going on now, so I got to go do my Islamic duty and whatever. Go meet up with the Riders of Khorasan and the Al-Mahdi, right? So there's that. And then there's a third one in the most majority and probably most of the ISIS fighters, the mercenary. As loyal as you pay them. Like Putin said, you pay them this much, they'll fight for you. The other guy pays them more, they'll switch sides. So there's probably a lot of that going on from the Russian side too. But so how do you think they got so much intelligence so fast to know where all the ISIS leaders are? How do you think they know that? They bought people off. It's, again, spy via spy, right? They'd have to have done that. But then when you're looking at soldiers, say like the SAS, the Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and all that, and all the other forces that are going to be in there, these guys don't fight so much for the money. They fight on principle. And that's the thing about standing armies. These guys are typically fighting on principle. That's what leads you to your revolution. And because these globalists must have a war with Russia or China or something that to blame the economic collapse on, and also to kill off most of the population that they can't afford to pay benefits for anymore, that's pretty much, I think, what leads to the U.S.-American military coup, probably brought in with the law enforcement first, I would think. Hopefully you guys down there get a George Washington to replace, and not a Fidel Castro or Saddam Hussein or whatever. So who knows, right? The coups are unpredictable. So again, be thankful for what you got now. Beautiful day, Thanksgiving, great family, all that stuff. Be very, very happy to have stuff like that. Because there's a lot that don't, and that could change in the near future at the rate we're going at. No, dates and times, I don't give dates and times because we don't know. They're going to come up with stuff to kick the can down the road economically, stuff we can't even dream about. And because of that, it makes things unpredictable. But you can start to see the desperation in the U.S. central bankers' policy, and you can also see, it's empires. Roman Roman Bavaria. You know what I mean? Like it's empires. They're fighting. So the problem is most of the little people are not in on it. The difference this time around in history is the advent of the internet has waken up more people than not. So the masses will always be out of the loop and go along with whatever the problem, reaction, solution dialectic is going to be. But where the difference is the guys in the know. And the guys in the know, I think, are going to be the game changers. Out of many comes one, right? So, again, I never call for violence or anything, but again, be prepared for anything because I think, many of the pilots are sick and tired of being Al-Qaeda's Air Force. Many of these soldiers are definitely pissed that they watched their buddies get massacred by Al-Qaeda in Iraq and Afghanistan. And to find out now that the U.S. openly admitted several times in the last week on mainstream media that their buddies are Al-Qaeda. Al-Nusra Front is Al-Qaeda. That's why they call them moderate rebels. They can't tell you what groups they are. Because if they do, you make the connection. Hey, we're arming Al-Qaeda. So, what do you think is going to happen within? What's the next, logical step, and when does it happen? What is going to be the tipping point? Well, I think this is where the Russian intervention trump card comes in, is to kind of spur that on a bit. People around the world are asking, why is the United States the only country, and maybe the UK, the only countries that are against Russian intervention, taking out, well, you see, they're not taking out ISIS, they're taking out all the moderates that are trying to overthrow Assad. But everybody knows that there are no moderates there. The ISIS guys are the Free Syrian Army is absorbed by Al-Nusra, and you can see where they are on the map, and ISIS. Al-Nusra and ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they might not, tribally like each other, but their goals are the same. So their goals is to overthrow Assad. But this is, again, comes back to why we overthrowing Assad in the first place. His country has attacked nobody. Comes down to the 2004 agreement that the Israelis had to preemptively strike Iran. But the Israelis didn't want to do it until Syria was out of the way because of the pact between Syria and Iran to come to its defense. Could wipe Syria. Syria could end up wiping Israel off the map. Which, in the end, it's going to happen. Who's going to do it? Who knows? I think Hezbollah, personally, at this point, because Hezbollah is getting tanks now. Oh, but they're terrorists. Again, and we turn a blind eye to Saudi Arabia. There's no good guys to, when we're talking to governments, there's no good guys anywhere. There's just a lot of innocent people getting caught in the crossfire. So, a bit of a rant video in some ways, but I think it's just more to just kind of paint the picture of what we're up against. humanity-wise. The world leaders, all of them, every country, every one of them needs to go to jail. All these policymakers that created all this death and destruction out of lies. But that can only happen if we can get through to the law enforcement and the military. Starting with the law enforcement. One charge, crimes against humanity, and on the backup charge, use it, acts of terrorism, okay, to be able to hold these people behind bars, the bankers, I know it's not going to happen. We're going to have all this mess first. But the thing is, the alternative is Mad Max World everywhere. Again, if you're catching some of the, don't do it with children around because it is kind of graphic, but if you're catching on some of the battle footage that's going on in Syria right now, the Syrian army has never been this organized. They've never been this well equipped. And I mean, it's just to see that going on everywhere on the planet, while a handful of elites get to sit there and giggle about it, I think we need to throw them in jail. In some places, firing squad will be required. Yes, use the NDAA in the states against all these congressmen. Round them up with you don't have to tell them what you're arresting them for. That's the good news, right? They passed that policy, so you can round them up. And some of these heads of CIA as well, because these guys, if you're fighting alongside terrorists, if you're arming terrorists, and if you're giving intelligence to terrorists, you're a terrorist. So get those guys too. Take them to Guantanamo Bay while it's open, and waterboard them. Get everything out of them. Then when they're done, find out, try them in your country. Then when you're done, let the country of origin that they've punished so badly set the punishment. And if the punishment is satisfactory, then you ship them over to there to see that punishment. That's simple. And this could all happen. Let's put it to you this way. We could do this faster than the Russians could wipe out ISIS. So the Russians could do it in 3 weeks. We should be able to do this in about 3 or 4 days. But we need brave law enforcement, prosecutors, 2 charges. Don't go after them for other. Just the stuff you can prove. Mass genocide. 1.5 million people died unalive for Rumsfeld, Bush, Blair, all these guys. Like Madame Albright said, yes, we believe the price is worth it to throw these guys in jail. So, and whatever else, right? So that's my take on it. Again, it's a beautiful Thanksgiving Day. I'm very happy to, be where I am and live the life I have. And I would love the rest of the planet to be able to do this, but we can't do this with the corrupt people in the way. So next to that, I always call for peace, stuff like that. And again, the way to do this peacefully is through the law enforcement, military upholding the rule of law. Again, if it was anybody else, they would be hauling them off. So why are these people above the law? That's the only question you have to ask. Why are they above the law? They're just men and women. Arrest them already. So anyway, until that happens, on she goes to the big thermonuclear exchange, and hopefully the cockroaches take better care of the planet because we didn't have any brave law enforcement or military to do the right thing. There we go. So next to that, I can go see my dog. She looks like she's doing what I feel like doing, just like falling over because I'm full of turkey. But yeah, there we go. So if you like this kind of content, links down below to make a donation. Thank you very much to everybody who has. Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like my dog. Be true to yourselves, be true to others, always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Right, Goof? Yep. G'day, hi, and welcome. Right now, I feel as fat as my cat is, because I've got turkey belly. Feet are not witnessable by this age. Now I know how he feels. See the resemblance? Yeah, I'm not making fun of you, I'm just saying. Anyway. Okay, first off, today is Thanksgiving up here in Canada. We have it a little bit different than the Americans. So anyway, for everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Everything is so stressingly difficult now because I got turkey coma setting in. So if I just nod off halfway through the video there, don't worry. It's perfectly normal. But anyway, it's a beautiful day. I mean, look, fall day. Look at that beauty. Like it's, the sun shining. Beautiful. I'm extremely blessed to have an awesome family, and lots of turkey. And anyway, so anyway, yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where, it kind of puts things in perspective, considering around the world all the crazy things that we're dealing with right now. And, which, okay, like anything, don't worry, don't go too far, doom and gloom's coming. In the videos there, and I look around and I realize, this is not what most people get to enjoy around the planet. That's something that we here in North America take for granted, in many European countries we take this for granted, that it's not this peaceful everywhere. and stuff like that. A lot of it has to do with cultural, some of it has to do with economics, but almost all of it has to do with politics and geopolitical stuff. And the crazy stuff we're seeing going on around the world is just mind-boggling insanity, right? But even with that, you know, we have to look at a couple of things. Now, this video isn't going to be bashing on Americans as much as it is bashing on U.S. foreign policy, like I always do. I don't bash on the people, because really the people don't have that much control over their governments anywhere around the world. Governments around the world, not the average government employee, the average government grunt, but the people in power do not serve the interest of people anywhere. Pick a country, it's the same all over. And because of that, it leads us to some of the most craziest of crazies out there. Now, one of the things that we're also looking at right now is a very tense situation over there in Syria. And what's it all about? A lot of people really don't realize what it's all about. And the more it is getting kind of exposed for what it is, but it's like anything. Until Gerald Celente, I think, says it well, nobody cares until it hits them in the pocket, but it will. Because it is really about empire. It has nothing to do with the women and children or democracy. My dog on the front step. And nice trying to hide, eh? Yep. You're too fat to jump. Don't jump. I'm too fat to walk, let alone jump. But anyway, yeah, so it's kind of one of those things that, you know, these policies have basically led to the most destabilization around the world. And that destabilization, well, it goes everywhere. It literally does. And, you know, none of us are immune to that insanity, but we do see that, you know, the desperation is setting in on these, you know, global elitists and stuff like that, where, you know, they're really trying to get a big war started. Because what is coming around the corner, you know, again, for the average person, they won't see it coming because they don't follow this stuff, they don't care. And even if they do care, they don't all follow the same, the same news sources, right? So if they're getting their news from the mainstream media, you know what the narrative is with the mainstream media. It's not really telling anybody the truth on anything. It's a narrative. It's not objective. And it's only through objectivity that you can actually make informed decisions. Whether you agree with people or disagree with people, you know, like I always say, never take my word for it. Always look into it for yourself. Good luck trying to prove me wrong on some of this stuff, because I listen to the leaders of the world, and they pretty much tell you everything they're going to do. They're psychos. They have to tell you. They can't keep it in. It's kind of like telling a 4-year-old a secret and tell them, don't tell anybody. You know, like, yeah, you know, like Tommy, don't tell your sister what we got her for her birthday. Make sure you don't tell her just before she opens it. What's little Tommy going to do? Because I do stuff like, I still do stuff like that. I shouldn't, but I do. And anyway, long story short, we're you know, people just have no idea what the secret is until they're faced with it face to face, and then they realize it's not a secret. It's completely open and apparent. You know, Agenda 21 now, Agenda 2030. I guess Agenda 21 isn't moving fast enough. So Agenda 2030, if you thought Agenda 21 was bad, well, Agenda 2030 is like the revised, refined version of it, and it's all communism at the end of the day in its kind of raw form. The blueprint is, anyway, a communistic one. Right, Goof? Yeah. So anyway, with that going on, people have no idea also that, you know, what empirism is. And empirism, and this is kind of going to get to the meat and the potatoes of what this video is. I know it sounds a bit of like a rambling video, but again, you eat 5 plates of turkey and see how much rambling you do, if you can even stay awake. Okay, good. I did eat a lot, though. It was so good. Like, yeah, my dad says it best. It's too bad. You have to feel full, you know. My cousin for that is like, I guess it's a safety mechanism, so you don't turn into a goldfish, eat till you explode. But when it's that good, you could do it. You could bust yourself, I'm sure. But the thing is what people don't understand about empirism is that's what we're witnessing right now. The world being, you know, technically divided into 2 regions: the transatlantic region versus the which is the Anglo-American Empire. You know, the City of London, not the City of London, but the banking City of London. It's a section in there that in London that creates all the financial policies around the world, which is linked to the IMF, you know, the Federal Reserve, and all this stuff, and even all the TV channels and everything. Pretty much all owned by the Rothschilds, and of course,